Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 22 female, am currently in my senior year of college, majoring in engineering. I've worked tirelessly to get to this point, and it hasn't been an easy journey, especially given the circumstances of my family life. My late mother always emphasized the importance of education, and her support has been my guiding light. But now, my father is demanding I drop everything to clean up the wreckage of his life, and I'm at my wit's end. My parents' marriage was never perfect, but it wasn't always this chaotic. My mom and dad got married in their late 20s after dating for a few years. Mom was the responsible, organized one. She worked as a teacher and was meticulous about saving money, planning for the future, and making sure I had everything I needed. Dad, on the other hand, was more laid back. He worked in sales, which meant his income was inconsistent, but my mom was always there to keep things stable. Growing up, I was closer to my mom. She was nurturing, attentive, and made sure I felt loved and supported. My dad was present in a more detached way. He'd show up for the big moments, like birthdays or school plays, but he wasn't really involved in the day-to-day. I chalked it up to him being busy with work, but as I got older, I noticed the cracks in their marriage. My mom would get frustrated with his irresponsibility, and they'd argue about money and his frequent business trips. When I was 12, my world came crashing down. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. She fought hard, but within 2 years, the disease took her from us. Losing her was devastating. Before she passed, she sat me down and told me that she had set up a trust fund to ensure I could go to college and build a stable future. She made me promise to prioritize my education and not let anything stand in the way of my dreams. After her death, my relationship with my dad became strained. He remarried within 2 years to Mia, a woman he had met through mutual friends. Mia was fine. She tried to be a good stepmom, but we never really bonded. I couldn't shake the feeling that my dad had moved on too quickly. Still, I tried to make the best of it, focusing on school and keeping my head down. Things changed about a year ago when Mia filed for divorce. At first, I thought it was just another fight. My dad and Mia argued a lot. But then the truth came out. Mia had discovered that my dad had been cheating on her for years with another woman, Lila. To make matters worse, Lila had just given birth to my dad's child, a baby boy. The fallout was explosive. Mia left immediately, and my dad brought Lila and the baby into our home. I was furious, but tried to keep my distance. My priority was school, and I didn't want to get sucked into their drama. But it was hard, and emotionally hard to have this unstable family dynamic. Also, my dad didn't make it easy. He started dropping hints that I should help out more around the house, which I initially interpreted as doing chores or babysitting. Then he began making comments about how lucky I was to have my mom's trust fund and how it was selfish to keep it all for myself when our family was struggling. I ignored him until last month when he cornered me for a serious conversation. He explained that Lila was overwhelmed as a new mom and couldn't work, and he was struggling to support the household on his income alone. Then he dropped the bombshell. He expected me to drop out of college, get a full-time job, and contribute my earnings to help support my baby brother. I was stunned. I told him flat out that I wouldn't be dropping out of college. I reminded him that my education was my mother's dying wish, and that it wasn't my responsibility to fix his mistakes. He didn't take it well. He accused me of being ungrateful and selfish, saying that family comes first, and that my mother would be ashamed of me for turning my back on them. His words cut deep, but I stood my ground. I told him that my mother set up the trust fund specifically so I wouldn't have to rely on him, and that I wouldn't let him guilt-trip me into abandoning my future. Since that argument, he's been relentless. He's told extended family members that I'm abandoning my innocent baby brother and letting him drown in debt. Some of them have taken his side, saying I should be willing to make sacrifices for the family. Others are horrified and have told me to stand my ground. The situation came to a head last week when my father gave me an ultimatum. Either I drop out of college by the end of the semester and get a job, or he'll kick me out of the house. I called his bluff and told him I'd be happy to leave. This only made him angrier, and now he's threatening to cut me off completely. The worst part is, I feel terrible for my half-brother. He didn't ask to be born into this mess, and I don't blame him for any of this. But I also know it's not my responsibility to fix my father's mistakes. My mom worked so hard to ensure I had a stable path in life, and I feel like honoring her wishes is the least I can do for her. I've decided to move out as soon as possible. A close friend has offered me a place to stay temporarily, and I'm looking into on-campus housing to finish my senior year. I've also consulted a lawyer to ensure my trust fund is secure and untouchable by my father. As for my relationship with my dad, I'm not sure it can be salvaged. I feel a mix of anger, disappointment, and sadness. I don't recognize the man he's become, and I'm not sure I ever will. I want to be there for my half-brother in some way, but I refuse to sacrifice my future to clean up my dad's mess. To anyone reading this, I'd love your perspective. Am I being selfish for refusing to drop out of college and help my father support his affair child? I'm furious on OP's behalf. OP's father made selfish choices that hurt everyone around him, and now he expects OP to shoulder the consequences? That's absolutely not OP's responsibility. OP is young and worked hard to get where she is, and her mom made it her dying wish to ensure OP could have a future free from this kind of nonsense. She would be proud of OP for standing her ground. OP's dad's behavior is manipulative, plain and simple. He's using guilt and emotional blackmail to try and guilt-trip OP. OP is not abandoning her baby brother. She is refusing to enable her father's poor choices. He's the parent here, not OP. Honestly, I'm flabbergasted at the entitlement here. Your dad cheats on his wife, has a whole affair baby, and now expects you to throw away your education and future to clean up his mess? The audacity is almost comical. Not the a-hole 1,000 times over. It's not like you're being petty or refusing to help with minor things. He's asking you to completely upend your life for his mistakes. The fact that he's weaponizing your mom's memory, someone who specifically wanted you to have a bright future, is disgusting. You're absolutely right to prioritize yourself and the promises you made to your mother. It sounds like your dad hasn't learned anything from his behavior and is just trying to shift his responsibilities onto you. I have to admit, part of me feels bad for the baby in all of this. He's innocent and didn't ask to be born into such a chaotic situation. That said, it's absolutely not your job to sacrifice your life for his sake. Your dad created this mess with his selfish actions, and it's up to him, and Lila, to deal with it. I think what really gets me is how your dad tried to guilt-trip you by saying your mom would be ashamed of you. That's not just unfair, that's downright cruel. From what you've shared, it sounds like your mom worked hard to give you a chance at a stable and successful future, and you're honoring her wishes by focusing on your education. You're not selfish for standing your ground. You're respecting her legacy. You're handling this so much better than most people would in your situation. The level of entitlement your dad is showing is astounding, and you're absolutely right to prioritize yourself here. He's the adult. He's the one who made these choices, and he's the one who should be figuring out how to manage them. It's really telling that after everything, he's trying to make you feel guilty for not stepping up. That just shows how little accountability he's willing to take for his own actions. And the fact that some of your family members are siding with him. Honestly, good riddance to them. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life. Update. After moving out, I've been able to focus entirely on my studies and my own well-being, which has been a huge relief. I found a small apartment near campus that's affordable with the savings I have left. It's not luxurious, but it's mine, and for the first time in a long time, I feel free of drama. However, my father recently reached out to me. At first, I thought it might be to apologize, or at least acknowledge how wrong he's been. But no, it was something even more absurd. He begged me to come back home. Apparently, Lila has taken a part-time job because they're still struggling financially, and she can't manage both working and taking care of my baby half-brother. My dad wants me to move back in to take over childcare. I couldn't help myself. I laughed. I told him, "You and Lila are absolutely delusional if you think I'm dropping my life to become your unpaid babysitter. Good luck finding someone else to take care of the baby for free, because it won't be me." He sputtered and tried to guilt-trip me again, saying things like, "You're abandoning your brother," and "I'm trying to give you a chance to reconnect with your family." I shut it down immediately. I told him that he made his choices and that it's not my responsibility to fix his life. I reminded him that I'm not the parent here, and if he and Lila are struggling, they can figure it out like the adults they claim to be. Then I hung up. It's honestly laughable that they thought I'd come crawling back, especially after everything they've done. The audacity of asking me to sacrifice my time, education, and emotional well-being to bail them out is beyond comprehension. As for my half-brother, I do feel bad for him, but I can't set myself on fire to keep their household warm. If my father ever truly acknowledges his mistakes and changes his behavior, maybe I'd consider having a relationship with him again. But until then, I'm focusing on myself and my future, the one my mom worked so hard to secure for me. Growing up, my dad's mom has never acknowledged my sister and I as her grandkids because we are girls. I remember being young and going over to visit, and she would ask my dad when he is having another kid to try for that son. The times we would visit for Christmas, my sister and I never got gifts while our male cousins did. This different treatment would upset us, and we eventually stopped going. It wasn't just my sister and I, but our other female cousins too. I still remember on Christmas my sister crying outside because our male cousins were teasing her to pick up after them. I remember asking my dad, "Are you mad Sissy and I are girls?" My dad said no, he's just happy to have two healthy daughters. My mom was furious over this treatment, and we stopped visiting her for holidays. She was always invited to our birthday parties and graduation parties, but was always too busy. Over the years, I don't acknowledge her as a grandparent and just call her my dad's mom. Now, my dad said she broke her wrist. She fell and caught herself wrong, and needs help grocery shopping. He asked if I can do it for my grandma, and I told him no. I'm busy with school, summer classes and then fall semester, plus volunteer work I do. My dad got angry because I can't do one thing for my own grandma. Long story short, we got into it. Nothing physically, just yelling. I told him if she needs help, why doesn't she ask her grandsons? I'm sure they will be more than happy to help their grandma. My dad says my cousins are living with her and unemployed. If they didn't live with her, they'd be homeless. I mentioned my dad's 5 other brothers, and he says they're not the kind to help their mom. Then it turns to that I'm being immature, and I should help because family, God, love. My mom comes home and tells my dad that he can do some grocery shopping for his mom. My dad says he's too busy, but was telling me too. My mom says she will do it. End of story, right? No. My dad calls his mom and she doesn't want help if it's from my mom. My dad isn't angry, but now upset because his mom needs help. It's been from Monday now, and my dad's still upset about it. My mom says she just wants to cause drama and fighting, that she has always been this way since they've gotten married. Edit. We are Mexican American, so I don't know if that plays a huge part in this. Edit 2. Y'all act like my dad is telling my sister and I to make him a sandwich while he does nothing. He's a good father, except when it comes to his mom. My mom says she will start crying and use some excuses to get him to feel bad. And according to my sister, 3 of my cousins live with my dad's mom. So I'm good enough to get her groceries, but not good enough to be her granddaughter? My dad calls his mom, and she doesn't want help if it's from my mom. That sounds about right. Beggars can't be choosers. This lady isn't getting any help because she's a massive sexist. You were doing the exact right thing. Your grandma is toxic and has never lifted a finger for you her entire life. She isn't family. She's a stranger that despises you for your gender. You are well within your rights to refuse your dad's request. Your dad has some serious issues to work through. I bet you it's the grandma who's enabling their lazy behavior. She probably does everything in the house and thinks guys should just relax while the women cook and clean and do everything. Seriously, this is how my mom thinks at times. The men just lay back while the women do all the house chores. It's a disgusting part of Hispanic culture. So, my mother-in-law, 55 female, always wanted a girl but had 3 sons. Arthur, 35 male, Brian, 32 male, and my husband, Chris, 28 male. I am currently the only daughter-in-law. Arthur hasn't dated anyone seriously in years and will tell you he doesn't believe in marriage or kids. He is a cool guy, travels the world and writes, enjoys his life, etc. Maybe someday his mortality will catch up to him and he'll settle down, but I wouldn't count on it. Arthur is pretty traditionally male in his interests, sports, beer, etc., outside of travel, and even his travel is more adventure travel than anything else. Not saying that's masculine, but my mother-in-law is not very interested in it per se. Brian is gay and married. Both his husband and he are guys, really into sports. Their house looks like a bachelor pad / frat house, combo still, etc. They're super cute to have fun and hang out with, but neither of them are doing any shopping, style, etc. stuff with my mother-in-law. My husband is into a few cultural things and is a little less traditionally caveman masculine in his hobbies. He still doesn't want to go shopping or anything, but there's less of a steak and sports vibe from him, though we both still like both of those things. He's the one his mom at least taught to cook. For instance, I have very similar interests to my husband: sci-fi, video games, sports, etc. Except he likes cooking, and I just like food. So he cooks, I clean, but I digress. We're dinks, and plan to keep it that way. I think Brian might want to adopt someday, so if she has grandkids, those are her best bet, but they seem on the fence. From the time we dated and the first 3 years of our marriage, we've been together 6 years, married 3. We lived far enough away from my mother-in-law that it was a non-issue. But recently, we moved near her, and she is obsessively trying to get me to do girly things and kind of getting aggressive when I'm not interested. I was polite and went shopping with her a few times, got our nails done. I got a clear coat and refused the press-on things adamantly, and she got very upset, etc. But she wants me to constantly get beauty treatments with her, go shopping, take cooking lessons, etc. And I am just not into it. She has never come over to play board games or gone to a science exhibit with me, or catered to any of my interests. She even gets mad if I have a beer with dinner when we go out to eat and don't want to get frou-frou drinks and try hers instead. My husband has not been very supportive, saying she just wants to get to know me. I've tried to point out that whenever she gets to know me, she doesn't seem to like me because I'm not girly enough. And he sees that too, but says, "Well, you're her only daughter, and she's probably not getting grandkids. Can you blame her?" Honestly, I need a way out. I've even suggested we get new jobs again. We moved for his job. I do contract work, coding from home, and can do it anywhere. But I make a living and a decent income. To get out of here because I hate living so near her. But he seems to think it just takes time. It's been 4 months and seems to be escalating. She stops by a lot when he's at work, and I'm working, and acts like I should just drop things I'm working on. She tries to make plans every weekend for just her and I, and then criticizes anything I actually want to do. She clips articles on how to be more ladylike. It's really oppressive. How do I talk to my husband in a way he understands to get his mom to back off, or talk to her? But the latter seems fairly impossible, as I feel like she never listens to me. My husband listens, empathizes, but then doesn't do anything to support me because he doesn't want a giant rift with his parents. My father-in-law is awesome and has called her out at least once in front of me, but he's usually not around when this happens. Edit to add some details. In trying to keep this short, we have A. Made sure she didn't have access to keys she somehow got. B. I have not opened the door when she came by when I was home working. Husband at work. C. Told her not to come by, but my husband feels bad not letting her in because she will pound on the door for like 10 minutes if you don't, unannounced, and asked her to leave for hours sometimes when she doesn't. I have told her I do not like these things. She has lied to me that we were going to a science museum I suggested, and then taking me to a luncheon, reordered drinks for me. You can read my comments for more. But we have tried to set boundaries every nice, polite way I can think of. Looks like maybe we have to get mean. But she has this victim narrative. All her sons think father-in-law is horrible to her, and so is his family, that never accepted her or something. That my husband buys into a little. Not with me, but she's had a hard life, etc. So I was trying to avoid being too mean. Hubby needs to get his head out of his butt and onto your side. Not just for you, but because if you ever have a daughter, then God help the wee mite. She'll be a pink horror in a pageant before she is 2. If your husband doesn't see a problem, then your husband is a problem. He's shrugging this off and leaving you to the wolves. It's his mother, so the power in speaking up is going to come from him first. Your mother-in-law is ganged up on you. He needs to come to your defense and support, not defend and enable his mother. Getting to know you so far has involved doing only things she likes and trying to shove you into a ladylike box, which is disrespect of her. She's trying to use you to be the daughter she never had, and she holds it against you when you aren't that person. If she wants someone to go shopping with and drink frou-frou mixes and be similarly ladylike, then she needs to get some friends, not try to replace you into being someone you are not. You are a person and a grown woman, not a piece of putty that she owns. I'm so confused. She's been obsessing for a long time about my daughter's hair getting in her eyes, so I reluctantly took her to the hairdresser and got bangs and a slight trim. Then it was obsessing about it being ugly for curling at the ends. I explicitly said that I don't want her to cut her hair, that I like the curl, and it's nice that it's long enough for a ponytail, etc. But today, when she was visiting her for 2 hours as we bought groceries, she hacked it off close to the scalp, and my father-in-law yelled at me, "Bah! Why do you want her hair long?" because I said I was upset and asked what happened. Who over the age of 10 is deluded about their ability to cut hair when they've never done it before? Who thinks it's okay to cut someone else's child's hair against their parents' expressed desires and when they have no knowledge of how to cut hair? The baby keeps crying, "My hair all gone, Mama did it." And even after taking her to a professional, it's a mess of a million different lengths. So short in places, only a buzz cut would even it out. I'm angry and sad, but most of all confused. Father-in-law's response has been totally defensive and immediately started yelling when I quietly said it's all gone and that it looks like the ponytail was chopped off. Luckily, my husband is on my side, but more furious than confused. I said it shows a lack of respect and good judgment, and they just yelled that we are disrespecting them as grandparents. My husband wants to cut them off out of anger, but I feel like even if I forgive, the lack of good judgment and respect for me as a parent make me feel like letting them have her unsupervised could be dangerous. I mean, surely kids have died from a similar crazy daughter-in-law says no peanuts effing precious hipster nonsense. I've heard that crazy no green M&Ms writer was really a test, that if they ignore this visible and testable requirement, there's reason to think they'd ignore the less visible but deadly important requirements. If my mother-in-law scoffs at "don't cut her hair," I do worry what happens that I don't see, such as continuing to tell her things like "Mommy is naughty, silly," like I've heard and told her not to do, or try to get her to say she loves her more than her mother. I told him that she runs fast and doesn't listen, and so he should carry her in parking lots and crossing the street, and he scoffed at me. "Bah, I'm careful," and refused to agree to do it. If any daycare worker or teacher cut her hair like this, I'd pull her and call the media. I don't know what to do. I'm sad and angry, but even now, I see that how I feel isn't the issue. It's not mere revenge that I don't want to drop her off there again. I just can't understand what she was thinking. She said she's sorry, but doesn't get what the big deal is. But that does nothing to assure me she'll develop more common sense or start caring about my role as a parent mattering. I'm so confused. Is it because curly hair is not an Asian trait, so they think it's ugly? Just to piss me off and show their disdain? An act of anger against a baby for being naughty. Literally marking her ownership and power over her. I'm even wondering if dementia is kicking in. If your husband wants to cut off his parents, listen to him. He knows what they are capable of more than you. Their complete disrespect should not be rewarded with more visits. Honestly, I would be tempted to report her since it's a crime to cut someone's hair against their will. It doesn't matter if it is dementia or just plain evilness. They don't respect you as a parent. They don't respect your daughter. Be firm. Don't let daughter be with them alone, ever again. Stand up for yourself and daughter. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. They gambled and lost your goodwill. Don't try to understand or empathize why they did what they did. There is no reason that is justifiable enough. Mom left us all of a sudden and then went on to marry a new guy she claimed to love. She had told me, my sister, and my dad that she can't waste even a day more on us and wants to finally live her loving life. Our parents had an arranged marriage and we are Indians. I was 19 at the time and my sister was 17. It traumatized my sister too much. There was no other choice but to accept the reality and move on. So we did. 6 years have passed, and we truly have moved on. We saw her going as equivalent to death of our mother figure, and just stood by our dad, focused on healing and studied well. Our lives naturally improved, and yeah, it's back to normal, a big thanks to my dad and his side of the family and friends. Well, no matter what, at the end of the day, she is a mother, and I tried to contact her, to which she was replying as if I was just an acquaintance. So I just left it at that. But later, within 2 years, she tries to come back. Messages, photos, and calls were there. I blocked her and never spoke to her until today. She came back to India a few months ago and came to our house. For your information, it's lockdown here in India, and I don't know how she managed, but she came to my home. I kicked her out, obviously, threatening police, and she is hysterically crying and literally begging. Well, after all this, after literally scarring my father and sister for life, I can't accept her. They both won't, as they are the most affected, so I am her only hope. I gave her tea after she stood there for hours. I didn't let her inside, though, and slowly called her big brother, my uncle, who took her away. She definitely is depressed and on medications. Well, you expect her to be after what she has done in the past, but does she deserve a reconciliation? I am feeling bad and pity, though, but it's natural for her to suffer. It's just karma and consequences of her own actions. Well, her second marriage seems strong from the outside. Her husband has come to India with her and all. But should I go to her and reconcile? What exactly is there to reconcile? She abandoned your family and basically said she didn't love any of you. She's still with the other guy. What's her reason for returning? Only to make herself feel better? She finally realizes what a horrible thing she did. But if you forgive her, then she feels better. It's all for her. She is still super selfish. It's up to you. She abandoned you. She wasn't happy in an arranged marriage and wanted to live her own life with someone she loved. That's fine. She's an adult and can make that choice. Turning away from her children in order to do so was a step too far. Choices have consequences, and one of those consequences was that she ruined her relationship with you and your siblings. You are under no obligation to forgive her for that if you don't want to.